Why is she calling you laoban? Why is she addressing you as boss? In this video, I want to share some culture shocks I've experienced as an American in Singapore, so let's get started. Culture shock, according to dictionary.cambridge.org, is a feeling of confusion felt by someone visiting a country or place that they do not know. As I mentioned in one of my previous culture shock videos, some people view culture shock as something that's negative, but I view culture shock as something that is positive, something that really forces you out of your comfort zone to learn and adapt to a new culture. In this video, I want to share some more differences I've experienced, so let's get started. A culture shock I've experienced in Singapore has to do with parking. Singaporeans park in reverse. In the many years I've lived in Singapore, I don't think I've even seen one car that's forward parked. In the US, most Americans do not reverse park. So in a large parking lot, you might see a few vehicles that are parked in reverse, but most Americans forward park. Number two, another culture shock I experienced has to do with people, especially at hawker centers, people calling the customers, if it's a male customer, laoban. Laoban means boss in Chinese. I don't think I've ever heard someone address someone as laoban until I moved to Singapore. My husband and I were in line to get mixed rice, one of my favorite things to eat in Singapore. I would eat mixed rice on a daily basis if I could. Every time I'm not cooking, I want to get mixed rice. We were in line for mixed rice, economy rice, and then when it was our turn, the lady said, "老板, 你要吃什么?" which means, "老板, what do you want to eat?" I just thought that was really weird. Like, why is she calling you laoban? Why is she addressing you as boss? Calling someone laoban is a way to show respect. So this is also something that's common in China. A lot of people will address you if you are a man as laoban. If you, for example, eat at a particular restaurant, the restaurant staff might address you as laoban. Another culture shock has to do with queuing. We're standing in line. I find that Singaporeans are really patient. I feel like every time a new store opens up, whether that's a bubble tea shop, boba shop, or a new restaurant, there's going to be a long line or a long queue. So for example, when Shake Shack first opened at Changi Airport, me and my husband went there, but we decided not to stay in line because I think we needed to wait at least 2 hours. This is around the time of their grand opening. Now they have several locations in Singapore, so we just waited until the initial craze went away. The culture shock has to do with gum chewing. So one thing that I've been asked a lot is, do you get caned for chewing gum? Do you get arrested for chewing gum? Or I heard you get arrested for chewing gum in Singapore. So you actually won't get arrested for chewing gum in Singapore, but you cannot sell or distribute gum. If you sell and distribute it, that is illegal. This doesn't really bother me because I've never been a gum person. I just don't chew gum. Another culture shock I've experienced in Singapore has to do with the number of CCTVs or cameras in Singapore. So Singapore has a land area of roughly 270 square miles, and for such a small country, there are more than 90,000 police cameras. So I've been asked this before, whether it's daunting to have so many cameras around. Singapore is a relatively safe country. It's the third safest city in the world. I think having a lot of cameras around just makes you feel even safer. Another cultural difference has to do with the time of the day that people shower in Singapore. So Singaporeans tend to shower at night, whereas Americans tend to shower in the morning. So this is something that is a habit that has changed for me. I used to shower in the mornings, mostly in the mornings, occasionally at night, but usually I would shower right before I had to work. After moving to Singapore, I started showering at night, but really in Singapore, because it's really humid, you probably would end up showering twice a day, sometimes even 3 times a day, depending on whether you go out or not. Sometimes we would go out for a short hike and then I'll just have to shower no matter what time it is. I definitely have to shower at night now. So that's a habit that would stick with me. Another culture shock I've experienced in Singapore has to do with the taxi rates. So prior to moving to Singapore, I heard that everything in Singapore is expensive. It's one of the most expensive cities to live in, which is true to a certain extent. But one thing that surprised me was how cheap, relative to the US, and in particular to Los Angeles where I lived, how cheap the taxi fares are in Singapore. As an example, if you need to take the taxi in Singapore, you're traveling 15 kilometers, which is roughly 10 miles. During an off-peak hour, you can expect to pay roughly 17 SGD, which is around 1270 USD. That is really cheap. And there's no tipping in Singapore, so you don't need to worry about tipping. In LA, where I lived pretty close to LAX. So a trip from LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, to where I used to live in LA, that's only about a 10-mile distance. Same 10 mile, 15 kilometer distance, I would need to pay at least 50 US dollars plus tips. So that could easily be over $60 for one 10-mile trip. So Singapore's taxi fares are extremely cheap compared to the rates in LA. But if you want to be even more economical, you definitely should take the MRT, the train, or the buses because they're much cheaper. So in Singapore, if you want to get prescription glasses or contact lenses, you don't need a valid prescription in order to purchase them. So you can visit any optometrist, tell them what type of contact lens you want to purchase, and you can buy it without a valid prescription. In the US, you need a valid prescription in order to purchase glasses, prescription glasses, or contact lenses because they are considered to be medical devices per the FDA. In the US, it depends on which state you live in. Some states, their prescriptions have a 1-year validity. Some states have a 2-year validity. Once your prescription expires, you need to go back to your optometrist, get a new eye exam, get a new prescription in order to purchase your contact lenses or your glasses. If you purchase contact lenses online, you still need a valid prescription in the US. Because my vision has not changed year after year, I find it so convenient that I don't need to get an eye exam to purchase contact lenses. Of course, it's always good to get an eye exam. And there are places in Singapore where if you purchase contact lenses or glasses from them, they'll give you a free eye exam, which is what I did on several occasions. So I love how convenient buying contact lenses or glasses is in Singapore. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you so much for your support. Have an amazing day. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.